Hello and welcome to the Strong, Healthy, Happy podcast. As always, I'm really pleased to be here. This week's episode, I'm going to be covering topics such as scale weight spikes, the importance of planning, hydration, should you remove foods like chocolate from your house, and why protein is essential for health and weight loss. And the purpose of this episode is to cover those topics, and also, this is my group check in to my group coaching program, the Feel Great Lose Weight Method. We are at the end of week 4. We have 2 more weeks of coaching to go. And I want to congratulate all the ladies on the group coaching, because usually at this point in coaching, motivation can drop because there's also the reality starts to set in where you think, oh my goodness, what I'm doing, I'm really going to have to keep doing this in order to continue making progress to my goal. And sometimes that can give you a bit of a wobble, but not with this group of amazing women. In fact, the opposite has happened. And as a group, what I've noticed this week is that the habits and the behaviors needed to support their weight loss goal, improve their health, and how they feel are really beginning to embed. And ladies on the group coaching are now creating this new normal. And what at first may have felt a little bit strange or they weren't used to doing, it's not how they used to do things, they're now finding this new way, this new approach, new habits, new behaviors, new mindset. And actually, they're starting to really see results now, not just in the scales, not just in their weight loss. That is happening. But more importantly, is how they feel. Because if you feel good, you are more likely to continue doing the very things that you need to do in order to continue feeling good. And as a result, you're going to positively impact your health. You're going to positively impact your weight loss goal. You're going to make consistent progress and you feel great in the process. And this is what I'm really seeing. And this is exactly what I want for all my clients, whether they're on group coaching, whether they're my one-to-one bespoke clients. One thing that I've really recognized with clients is the ones that make ultimately great progress. Well, progress is made for many reasons. But when clients first start with me, the clients that really begin to make progress are the ones who open themselves to change, recognize that their past approach to dieting and improving their health didn't work. And it may have worked short term, but it didn't work long term. And that when they open themselves up to change and they start to establish and create the new behaviors, it becomes life changing in so many ways, not just for your health, not just for your weight loss goal, but it completely and entirely changes the way you feel about yourself and how you feel in your body. And this is it gives me so much fulfillment and pleasure as a coach to see women really embrace this change and start to feel great mentally, physically, physiologically, psychologically. It's just the most amazing thing. Now, um, I want to also start off in not my usual order. Usually I start by sharing my client wins and then I go on to their challenges, many of which you will be able to resonate with, whether you're a client or not. And you will learn from the advice that I'm going to share in this podcast, and then I answer various questions. But I'm going to start off this podcast, first of all, by reading some feedback that one of my lovely ladies put into her check-in form. And what I'm going to read it word for word. And what she has said is, I'm enjoying not being hungry and knowing that I can still enjoy everything, even treats. I like your approach, Debra, because you've experienced the sort of things some of us are going through, unlike other coaches. You never make us feel bad for not hitting targets, but give huge encouragement instead. Being consistent and not perfect makes me feel more confident in being able to reach my end goal. And first of all, thank you so much to my lovely client who wrote that feedback. And it really does encapsulate many of the values that I have in coaching. And that is to aim for consistency and not perfection. The problem with perfection is when you can't do things perfectly, you tend to quit. And when you quit, it sets you further away from your goal, as opposed to being imperfect but consistent. You'll make more progress having that approach. And I always look for the positives in all what my clients are doing in their coaching. And I recognize the importance of celebrating the wins, no matter how small. All wins are recognized, shared, and valued. And with that in mind, let's go on to my first win of the week from Vicky. Her wins are she drank loads of water, she did 3 workouts, she now fits into her pre pregnancy jeans. She's making progress towards her goal. And having looked at her recent progress photos, I can see visible differences in her body, and it represents a reduction in body fat. With my clients, I don't just rely on scale weight. In the short term, scale weight doesn't always accurately represent body fat loss. Remember, body weight is your total weight. It doesn't just measure body fat. And this is why photos are so valuable, because I'm able to have that visual representation. And I look at my client photos, and when I see visible differences, that represents a loss in body fat. She's really enjoying group coaching and the community support, which is in abundance. And all my clients, one to one group coaching, all my clients can go into the community chat and have that daily support from both myself and the community. Rebecca has felt more focused and positive this week, not just towards her food, but just in general. She's really enjoying food and no longer what she describes as having food noise or thinking about food all the time. She doesn't have that anymore. And if you find that you are overly consumed with thoughts of food, or you finish one meal and you're already thinking about what you're going to have next, this is a bit of a red flag and something that I would encourage you to reach out to me if this describes you, and let me help you or point you in the right direction. And you don't have to be a client to obviously contact me. Please do look in the show notes, because it is cause for concern and it's not healthy to be overly consumed with thoughts of food. But the fact that Rebecca has reduced thoughts of food and the noise around food has reduced is a really big win. She doesn't even feel like she's on a diet, but she is losing weight. And that's because when you understand about nutrition, which is what I'm teaching my clients, when you understand about nutrition, when you're dieting, it's not about eating as little as possible. It's actually about eating as much as possible within your calorie range, having a high protein diet, having good quality nutrition, eating plenty of veg and fruit. And when you do this right, you're actually eating more than you probably ate before. The difference being the foods that you were eating before were probably much smaller in volume, but much higher in calorie. And this is what clients learn through coaching. And it's a really great win when you turn things on its head. And another thing I've noticed in all my client check-ins, one of the questions is they rate their level of hunger from 0 to 5. And I would say 100% of all my clients checking in this week, nobody has experienced low levels of hunger. And this means they are doing things right, which is really great. She is, going back to Rebecca, she's eating more protein compared to how much she was eating prior to coaching. As a result, she's not feeling hungry, even though she's in a calorie deficit. She has done all her workouts, but not quite hit her step target. She has set her a goal for herself in the week ahead to hit her steps. Now, what I would say to my clients, And to anyone out there listening, is I like to work on averages with steps. There is going to be some days where your time is impacted, or perhaps you're busier than usual and you can't get as many steps in as usual. And then there are other days where you have much more time. You can go for longer walks, you're more active, and your steps are going to be a lot higher. But what I'm looking at across the week is, if we were to add up your steps over 7 days and divide it by 7, we get an average daily step target. And that's how I like to look at steps with my clients. Now, that being said, for general health and well-being, mentally and physically, I would always recommend that you don't let your daily steps fall below 7,000. And this is for general health. Obviously, you can do more than that. And I would always encourage you to increase your steps, because movement and steps is where the majority of your expenditure, calorie expenditure, is being burned, not from exercise. And so having a higher step count when your goal is fat loss is really smart. But obviously, some days you can't get as many steps in as other days. But as a guide, try not to let those steps fall below 7,000 a day minimum. Amber has stuck, her wins, she's stuck to her diet through half term, which she said has been challenging. And anyone with young kids will be able to relate to that. But she feels like she faced these challenges well. She's met her step target, even though it was half term, and she got all the kids out for a walk at her usual time so that she could try and keep the structure that she had created whilst they're at school. And this is a great example of getting the family involved, and movement for all the family is going to be beneficial. You're going to be a really great role model to your kids, Amber, as well. And it's great that you were able to hit your step target over the half term when it is more challenging. You did what you could with your workouts, which is great. And what you've demonstrated is, you may not have got all your workouts in that you had hoped, but what you've demonstrated is that you've done the best you can considering the circumstances you were in. And this is what imperfect action is. This is what being consistent but imperfect is. You didn't just think, I couldn't get my workouts in, so therefore I'm not going to bother with my steps and I'm not going to eat healthy food. You've actually done whatever you can, and you've just accepted that you couldn't get all your workouts in. This is really great. This is how you're going to make progress. Not aiming for perfection, not quitting when things aren't perfect, and doing the best you can. Great. Really, really great. Amber has set herself an intention this week, now the kids are back, to get 4 workouts in and walk every day. So I look forward, Amber, to hearing how that goes next week. Now, Tara got up early for a workout this week, which is great. She was previously struggling to fit her workouts in. She has a full-time job, young kids, but she has now proved that she can get up and do a workout before work. And it's really important, if you're struggling with time and you find it difficult to fit things in, is often we get very fixed in our ways at what time we should be doing certain things, or what time we don't do certain things. And when you change your mindset and you think and you realize, yeah, I can get up earlier, I can get a workout in, and I have got it done, and I've got my whole day ahead of me, and I've done my workout, it really does change your mindset and prove that you can do these things. So I would encourage you to carry on, get another workout in nice and early. And another big win for Tara is she enjoyed a glass of wine, went out for the day. She went to the theatre. Usually she would have had a lot more. And I find with many of my clients I work with that drinking alcohol has become a bit of a habit or an expectation, whether it be an expectation they place upon themselves or from others. And when they do reduce the quantity of alcohol, it doesn't reduce their enjoyment of the occasion, the social event, or whatever it is that they're doing. In fact, most of my clients report back to me, in fact, all of my clients report back to me that they feel better for it, especially the following day when they wake up feeling good, with more energy, a better mood, ready to take on the day and do something positive, like getting out for a walk, a workout, eating healthy food that makes them feel good, instead of the alternative that they usually face after having too many drinks, feeling really rough the following day with no desire to do anything, usually wanting higher fat, higher calorie foods. And so there is lots to say about reducing the amount of alcohol. And I have done a whole podcast episode on this. I talk about alcohol quite a lot in my social media, and it's definitely worth a listen. It's one of my more recent episodes, so do give it a listen if you want to find out more about alcohol, how to include alcohol, but not impact your weight loss progress. Now, talking of alcohol, Sonia's big win this week is that she's cut down on alcohol. She's hit her steps every day except one, which, imperfect action. That's great. She's done all of her 3 workouts. And she's also really proud of herself because her boyfriend voiced his desire for wanting burgers. And instead of going out for burgers or buying them in from takeaway, she actually made her own using 5% mince. She made her own chips. And it was really delicious. And it proves that you can still eat the foods you love, but you can make healthier alternatives that suit you and your goal and your family members, partner. They will enjoy it too. And they will feel good for it. And you save money as well, which is always a bonus. Stella has managed to get out for lots of walks, even though she's been busy with uni. She's felt a little down this week. Now, Stella is a 3rd-year uni student. The intensity coming to the end of her course is extremely high. She's got a lot of work to do. She's also working towards her health and weight loss goal. She's proving that there is never the perfect time to take care of your health and lose weight. And if you can do these things during challenging times in your life, you can do them at any time. And she's proving that. She's continued to make healthier choices for lunch by taking her own lunches into uni, or choosing the healthier options available at uni, and it's making her feel so much better. Alongside uni, she is also working long shifts, and she's really proud. Usually prior to coaching, she would usually stop off and get fast food on the way home, and she didn't do that. And it's a really big win because it wasn't making her feel great. She's much more structured and is planning a lot more and has set up her environment that when she gets home, there are more foods available that are in line with her goal. And she is able to eat when she gets in. Carolyn has done 3 resistance sessions this week. Well done. And she's added protein and veg to all of her meals. She's tracked a lot more consistently this week. Now, not all my clients track. Some clients don't want to track, and that's fine. I can manage their food intake in other ways. However, tracking is a really great tool that we are very fortunate to have. Now, people were losing weight way before we had apps to track food, so you don't need to track food. However, it is a really useful tool. You are able to know pretty much the amount of food and drinks that you're consuming. So it enables you to stick to your calorie deficit and find, and have a much more controlled way in managing your food and drink intake. It is a very useful tool. It's not necessarily a lifelong tool. I don't want clients to track for the rest of their life. But it is a great tool whilst you're working towards a fat loss goal, and using it accurately and honestly is going to enable you to make progress towards your goal. Now, challenges. Oh, I've just realized I missed something out on alcohol, because I've read out a couple of the wins about clients who had reduced their alcohol consumption at their social events or during half term or weekends. And I do want to caveat that by saying I never tell my clients not to drink. It's not my job to do that. I don't have anything against any of my clients enjoying a glass of whatever it is that they fancy, or a couple of glasses of whatever drinks they fancy. I drink on occasion. I don't drink a lot, but I do drink on occasion. And I would never, the same way I wouldn't tell my clients not to eat certain foods, everything is included and inclusive with their nutrition choices, no matter if they're healthy or less healthy. And that's the same for alcohol. But what I do is I raise my clients' awareness as to why they drink. the impact it can have on their health and their goals, as well as the negative impact it can have on how they feel. My clients make up their own minds about how they approach alcohol at their upcoming social events and weekends and any occasion where they're choosing to drink. But they're doing it from a place of understanding what their goals are, how they want to feel, what's important to them, and how to include it, but perhaps do it in a more moderate way. And I don't have any clients that report back to me that it impacted the enjoyment of their evening or occasion or anything like that. So I do want to add that in. Now, moving on to challenges. Something that has happened for a few of my clients that I've noticed in their check in is their scale weight has spiked. Now, this may happen, it's normal. Your scale weight will fluctuate. My clients weigh themselves regularly. I try and encourage them to weigh a minimum 4 to 5 times a week, if not every day. And the reason for doing this is it helps clients realize that their body weight fluctuates. You're not a robot. You're not going to stay the same weight every single day. And your weight loss isn't going to be linear. That is an unrealistic expectation. Scale weight fluctuations happen for many reasons. And the reasons aren't necessarily important. I'm not going to go through every reason why your scale weight fluctuates, but recognizing that it does fluctuate and learning not to react to it, because this is where the issue is in the past, especially if you're only weighing once a week, which can be very inaccurate, knowing that your scale weight fluctuates. If you jump on the scales and you see your scale weight fluctuate, does it unsettle you? Do you think that everything that you've been doing hasn't been working and so you quit because what's the point? And this is the worst thing you can do, because you just may be having a natural scale weight fluctuation. And if it's fluctuated overnight, you cannot gain body fat overnight. You can gain body fat over time, but not overnight. So if your scale weight has fluctuated overnight, reassure yourself that it's not body fat. And the way that you respond to scale weight fluctuations is just to carry on doing all that you need to do, ticking off your habits, ticking off your goals, staying within your nutrition guidelines, eating 3 meals a day, including protein and veg at each of those meals, and doing what you usually do, getting your steps in, getting your workouts in, getting sufficient sleep. Your scale weight will come back down again. But if you quit every time your scale weight fluctuates, you will never make progress. So you just have to carry on, and your scale weight will come back down again. So I wanted to just give reassurance to my clients who may have seen a scale weight fluctuation, not to react to them and to respond by just carrying on. And for anyone listening, if your scale weight fluctuates, know that for yourself as well. Another challenge that's sort of come up quite a few times in my client check-ins, and they've recognized this themselves because they write down what their challenges are. And then the following question asks them, like, how can they, what can they do to reduce the likelihood of these challenges happening again? And most of the clients that struggled, they've brought up lack of planning and preparation. And planning is really key to your success. And the same way you would plan your meetings, your hair appointment, your nail appointment, you would schedule it into your diary. You're not going to miss those appointments. They're important to you. You're going to turn up. When it comes to your health and your weight loss goals, the more you can plan and schedule, the more you will increase your own accountability to yourself and you'll get things done. Planning will also reduce you having to make decisions. So if you don't know what you're having to eat for lunch and it gets to lunchtime and you're hungry, and then you have to decide what it is that you're going to eat, what protein source you're going to have, it's what veg or what salad or what fruit. It's a lot of decisions, especially difficult to make when you're hungry. But if you know what you're having for lunch because you've batch cooked or you've prepared, you're having the same lunch that you had yesterday and you still have the ingredients available because you've shopped and you've got the same ingredient in, it makes decision making a lot easier. It enables you to be more consistent, more accountable, and stick to your targets and stick to your goal and therefore make progress. So, the same way you would put in your appointments, scheduling time to go to the supermarket, making sure you've set up your environment with the foods that support your goal. Think fridge, freezer, cupboards. Um, Keep variation for breakfast and lunch to a minimum. Most of us eat the same meals, same breakfast. You don't need to have huge variety. When you're dieting, it makes sense to keep consistent, maybe have a choice of one, two, maximum three choices, and then have more flexibility with your dinner. And it will make decision making so much easier and being consistent. Now, Vicky has talked about that she gave into chocolate the other day and says that the way she's overcome this is not buying it or having it in the house. Now, as a general guidance, if you have a certain food or food type that you feel you can't control yourself around or you overeat on, removing it from the house is really not the answer. It's like sticking a plaster on the issue, and the issue is you finding moderation around a certain food type. Now, with my coaching, I do work on with this. Usually with my one-to-one clients, we go quite in depth with the foods that they feel that they're overeating on. I bring in certain strategies to introduce it, but in a controlled way. But removing it from the house is a short-term fix. And what happens usually is you start to crave it. You may not miss it for a little while, and then you start to crave it. You finally give in, you finally buy it, you overeat on it, and then you tell yourself, oh, don't worry, I'll just not buy it again, until you invariably do. And you repeat this process. Some of the really small tips I can give you for now is try and include it every day, but always following on from a meal when you're already quite full. And it makes sense to try and give yourself portion control. So don't buy family bars. You're making things very hard for yourself. Buy the small mini size bars, and have one every single day. You will reduce your scarcity mindset around these certain foods, and if you have it every day and know you can have it every day, you will be less likely to overeat on it. But it is something I work on much more closely with my clients, but as a general guideline. Half term has been this week. Maybe you've got hot kids that have been on half term. Whether it's half term or weekends, recognize that your structure may change, but create a structure. It might look different. Think about your meals, what meals you're going to be having, and how you can plan them around the arrangements that you're making for your kids, and do the best that you can. And then another of my clients, so she went to Subway for lunch. She was with friends and she felt she could have chosen a more healthier option. What she chose was a reasonably healthy option, but she felt she could have done better. And I just want to remind this client that one meal in isolation doesn't ruin a diet. You are an average of what you do most of the time. And most of the time, this client has made really positive changes to her nutrition. And I do not want any of my clients to associate any guilt with any food that they eat. That is not a good way to approach different foods. Food is food. Some is higher calorie, some may be less nutritious, but food is food and all food can be included. And I want you to also recognize that just one meal isn't going to ruin your progress. And all you need to do is from the next meal onwards is you just go back to your usual way of eating. And over the week, one meal, what's one meal's not going to make any difference. So please don't worry about that. Last one, and that is Rebecca went to a friend's house, um, which ended in day drinking and not having what I had planned for dinner, and it ended with not good food choices. Now, let's break this down, okay? Like, we're human, and sometimes as human beings, we make mistakes. And I'm never going to tell someone off for having a great time, living in the moment, doing what felt right. And what's important is that we learn from the things that we do. I'm not going to call them necessarily mistakes, but we learn from the things that we do. And Rebecca has already learnt from this, and she's already commented that next time she goes out, she's going to have her dinner ready so that when she comes in, she has it ready. And it comes back to that planning and scheduling and being prepared. It's going to be ready so that when she comes in, she's got good, healthy food choices and a dinner to eat that aligns with her goals. Um, Again, I'm not going to tell clients not to drink. It's recognizing how the alcohol impacts you the following day, because it's not just the alcohol at the time of drinking, it's how it makes you feel later that day, the actions you take following on from alcohol, the choices that you make, how it impacts you the following day. And so just learn from it. And the next time you go out is maybe have a bit more of a plan when you're going to a social event. And I always think it's beneficial to write down your plan. It will help you see what your plan is and stay more accountable to it. And your plan can include what alcohol you're going to drink, how much you're going to be drinking, and that enables you to be able to stick to it. And therefore, you'll have less likelihood of those poor choices and feeling really bad the next day. I don't want that for any of my clients. So, some really great progress this week. All of my clients are making progress, and it's really, really great to see. We're coming into week 5 now. And if you're listening to this podcast and you're thinking, I really want in on the next group coaching, please contact me and I will add you to my wait list. And you will be the first to know of the next day of the group coaching. Huge well done to my clients, and I'll catch up with everyone in the group chats. We have a Zoom call tonight as well, which will be great, where we're going to go a bit deeper into certain topics. And thank you for listening. And please follow the podcast or subscribe, and feel free to leave me a 5-star review and share me with your friends, because I want to reach and help as many women as possible. Thank you for joining me.